Value education. Today we'll do People's President of India. Who was known as the People's President of India? Why? Why was he such a famous person? We talk about that in this chapter. Now this chapter primarily deals with APJ Abul Kalam. He is being referred to as the People's President of India. How did he become the People's President? So we also know that this person was popularly known as, people knew him as the Missile Man of India for his great contribution towards the Indian space program, his massive contribution. So he was the Missile Man of India. Now in this chapter, People's President of India, we will deal with this person and the values that we learn from him. He was a great man, and from him we learn diligence, perseverance, how to utilize one's time properly, patience, humility. He was a great man. He was a very gifted person, yet he was always humble. He was always sincere in his work, sincere about his work. He was a good leader. Not only was he a good person, he was a good leader. The good leader does not mean someone who moves, like controls his subordinates, or a good leader is always a person who coordinates with his people, with the people who work under him. And he was a good leader in the sense that he not only gave them their job and told them how to do it and did the job with him, he was always very good to them. That shows his great leadership, and people wanted to work under him. People wanted to be under his guidance. People loved him as a leader. So these are various values we learn through this great man. So he was a highly respected person. He was a scientist, an engineer, and above all, a wonderful human being. Behind his genuine and disarming smile, that means a smile which can disarm any person, lies abundant knowledge and experience. He was a very knowledgeable person, which has been acquired after braving many hardships. He did not receive everything in a platter. He had to work hard to attain what he did. He was popularly known as, this is a very important line, he was popularly known as the Missile Man of India. As I showed you the picture, he was known as the Missile Man of India for his work. Why was he known so? He was known as the Missile Man of India for his work on development of missiles, strategic weapons, and space rocket technology. He is none other than Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, the 11th President of India. Dr. Kalam cut across hills, deserts, and seas. It means he went to various places, and visited every state in India, only to come in touch with millions of people. So he could not have done so, but he wished to do so. Why? He wanted to get in touch with millions of people. Wherever he went, people of all age groups thronged to listen to him. They came to him willingly. They wanted to hear him speak. They wanted to hear him. Thus, he came to be known as People's President. That's why he was called the People's President, person who can be approached, a person who we know can be approached, whom we can talk to, and who, being knowledgeable, being such a gifted person, was very humble, and people could approach him. Therefore, he was called the People's President. There is a story about Dr. Kalam from his days as a scientist. Now, I was talking about being a good leader. Now you will see what a good leader is and how a good leader inspires the people who work under him to do better, to give in their best. This is a classic example. He had a team of dedicated scientists who were working tirelessly on a rocket launching project at Thumba. It was a long and tedious, they had to work long and tedious hours, and which added to their stress levels. Yet, not a single scientist ever complained. Why did they not complain? They had to work so rigorously. They never complained because the environment was so friendly. He made it, being a good leader, a great leader, he had the capacity to inspire his people. He had the capacity to create such an atmosphere of a pleasant atmosphere where people would give in their best and yet they would never complain. So, in fact, they were too happy to be working under his leadership. So, he was a profound leader. A good leader can move people. A good leader does not have to demand respect. People respect him for what he is. So one day, a scientist asked for permission to leave early as he wanted to take his son to an exhibition. Dr. Kalam granted it willingly. He did not force anyone. He was not someone to force something because he saw that the people working under him were doing their work properly. So there was no need to force them. To force someone and to show your authority, that is not leadership. Dr. Kalam granted it willingly. Being conscientious, the scientist wanted to complete his allotted task. He knew that he was a very sincere person, the person who asked for leave. Being a sincere person, being conscientious, what did he do? He thought that before going, he would finish whatever he could. So his allotted task, he started doing it. However, he became so engrossed in his work, so he got so lost in his work that he forgot all about his promise to the family. What promise did he make? He promised that he would take his children out for exhibition. But being lost in work, he completely forgot all about it. When he remembered it was late night, filled with guilt, he walked back home, expecting his family to be sulking in disappointment. He thought that the family would be very disappointed and angry with him, for he had forgotten his promise. However, a pleasant surprise awaited him. What was that surprise? His wife showed no signs of anger, and his children were peacefully asleep. When he asked his wife whether the children were disappointed, she said, "Your boss came in the evening and took the children to the exhibition. He said you were busy at work." So he was not only a great leader, he was also a great person who saw that this person had promised his family and he had willingly granted him leave, but that he was so lost in his work, he did not wish to disturb him. So he went to his family in his stead and did what that scientist was supposed to do. So this shows how very understanding he is. Dr. Kalam defied innumerable odds in his younger day. It means odds means difficult situations. He defied them. He showed his arrogance and worked harder whenever he was faced with such odds, such difficult situations. But he had a supportive family. He is deeply convinced that education made him what he is today. He believes that perseverance, hard work, and patience alone can lead us on the path to progress. So what can lead one to the path of progress? Perseverance, hard work, and patience. You have to be constantly striving for what you are, for your goal. You have to work hard and you have to be patient and wait for the correct time to come. You should not give up hope. Dr. Kalam grew up in Rameshwaram, which is an island town located in South India. His father was a modest boat owner and the friend of the temple priest. So He was a Muslim, but his father was friendly towards with a he had a friend who was temple priest. So you see, there is no religious fanaticism prevalent in the family, and he got to learn from his father how not religiously biased he should be. As his father was not educated, he encouraged his son to study. He understood the importance of education. His father was a boat owner, but that does not make him illiterate. There are many people who are very educated. They have wonderful degrees. They have wonderful certificates to show that they are educated, but they act in the most meanest manner, which show how very uneducated they are. Education lies in the way you carry yourself, you behave behave with others. That shows how educated you are. So this person, his father, who was a common boat owner, is being a religious person. He has a friend who was a temple priest. That means he was not a biased person. That means he was not a person who had a narrow thinking. He was uneducated, but he inspired his son to study. So you have to understand what a great person he was. And Dr. Kalam and Dr. Kalam, he had such a wonderful person as his father, from whom he learned so much in his life. Which, if you ever read Wings of Fire, you will come to know much about him and his father and his family and his struggles in life. Wings of Fire is written by him. Now, Dr. Kalam's day would start at 4 a.m. and end by 11 p.m. His mother would make chapatis for him early in the morning, while his 7 other siblings ate rice, which was prepared for the whole family later in the day. Dr. Kalam would bathe and then attend mathematics classes. It is believed that the only condition the teacher laid for his students was that they were to bathe before coming to class. That was the most important thing. So after the mathematics class, Dr. Kalam and his cousin Samsuddin would go around the town distributing the day's newspapers. So you see, he as a child, he would distribute newspapers as well. So he had to do it for the extra money. As the town did not have electricity, kerosene lamps were lit late in the evenings in most households. Dr. Kalam's mother would specially save some kerosene for her son to study till late in the night. Dr. Kalam drew inspiration from his teachers. Ayyadurai Solomon, one of his teachers at Schwartz High School, often told him that if he was truly passionate about achieving something, that means if you really wish, if you have a unsurpassable desire, passion to achieve something, nobody could stop you. In Dr. Kalam's own words, this is what made him fearless, apart from his father's encouragement. So his father, his teacher, they were the inspirations. Now, others too were there who inspired him. So you see, contributing in no mean terms were Jalaluddin, who was to become his brother-in-law, and Samsuddin, who taught him to appreciate nature, its bounty and wonder. So these people too inspired him. Everyone in their own way taught him something or the other. Thus Dr. Kalam developed well-rounded personality. He was deeply spiritual with a strong scientific temperament. He was spiritual, but he never talked about his religion, and he never demeaned any other religion. A person who demeans other religion to show how your religion is the most superior has no knowledge of religion, has no knowledge of anything. So he was a truly educated person, and his nature, his way, the way he conducted himself shows what a person he was. So Dr. Kalam graduated in physics from St. Joseph's College, Tiruchirappalli, but A niggling dissatisfaction lurked in him since his passion was to pursue aeronautics. The flight of birds. Now, why was he so passionate about aeronautics? The flight of birds had never stopped enthralling him ever since he was a schoolboy. That means, since the birds could fly, he would see the birds would fly. And that really made him wonder how wonderful it would be to fly, to take air. Take to the air. It means to take to the air means to fly. So when he joined Madras Institute of Technology at Chennai to pursue a course in aeronautics, he literally lived his childhood dream with utmost passion. So he ultimately could do what he really wished to. Here he learned the value of time. He was under great pressure to complete his projects, because if he would not do so, he would not get a scholarship. The scholarship would be withdrawn. So he did not come from an affluent family. So he had to work his way up, and he was granted scholarships, and he made good use of it. So if he did not finish his work properly, if he did not do his work properly, the scholarship would be withdrawn. So it was then that he understood the great pressure of the great value of time. So you have to finish your work in the stipulated time, and you won't get an extra 5 minutes to do your work. He ensured that he successfully met his deadline, giving up on food and sleep. He literally gave up on food and sleep, and finished his work. He did not want his parents' sacrifice to be in vain, because he knew that his parents had sacrificed a lot for him. Remember that his mother used to save kerosene for him. He used to have chapatis, he used to take tuitions, he used to go to classes, and they all needed to be paid. So they put in a lot of hard work so that their son could study, and he did not wish to let their sacrifices to be in vain. So a child who understands the sacrifice or the hard work of their parents is deemed to succeed in life. So Dr. Kalam led several projects with sincerity and passion, and he treated each one of them as though it were his last. He did his best. He gave his best, his 100%. As his advisor, Major General R. Swaminathan remarked, he has this unique capability of being a boss as well a worker. So he was a boss, but he never drove people around. He used to work with them as a team member. He coordinated with his people, and he was never rude to his people. He was always sincere, diligent, and understanding. So he can take any role with ease. He worked for Defense Research and Development Organization, DRDO, and then at the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO. During his 20-year tenure at ISRO, he led a team that put India's first satellite into space. So it was a remarkable victory. The same team later on took up the Integrated Guided Missile Development Program. So he worked very hard. To him, work was worship. So we understand he was a workaholic. Dr. Kalam was devastated upon the failure of his first project, that of SLV-3. Compounding this was a profoundly personal loss around this time, because the loss of one of his childhood mentors, Jalaluddin, that person had passed away. So life, however, had to move on. Dr. Kalam worked doubly. He did not give up. He believed that failures were stepping stones to success. He believed in it, and he worked according to it. He doubly worked and persevered to ensure the success of SLV-3 during his next attempt. Thus, one of the important lessons that he learned in the space and missile program was, to put in his own words, we are quoting him, not just how to handle success. You should know not just how to handle success, but how to deal with failure. And you should know very well how to deal with failure, because if we give in, after we fail and if we give in, that's the end. We can never move on. But if we do not let us down, if we back up, if we get back up every time, we are sure to succeed. And you have to also know how to handle success. Why handle success? If you become successful and you become snobbish, you lose the humility and you start believing that you are at the top of the world, things will crumble down very soon. So you should handle success and you should also deal with failure. Dr. Kalam had immense faith in human potential, in the inherent goodness of man. These two is very important. He believed that man has the potential to do if he wished to do. And he believed that man has an inherent goodness. However rude, however conniving he may be on the surface, that person may have some goodness inside him. And he believed that. And in the spirit of the youth, he believed tremendously that youth, as Swami Vivekananda did, he believed that youth are the the storehouse of vibrant energy, and they have the capacity to bring in change. So he too believed in the spirit of the youth. He had a great vision for the future of the country and always believed that technology plays an important role in the progress of a nation. He empowered the villagers through his concept of PURA, providing urban amenities in rural areas, which is about giving a cluster of villages physical, electronic, and knowledge connectivity. He believed that connectivity is the key to bridging the rural-urban divide, because the rural areas, they do not receive such amenities as the urban areas did, and he wished to bridge the gap between both the areas. He wished to bridge the divide, which would eventually help rural areas to prosper and benefit the country as a whole. A country in which only the urban areas are developed and the rural areas remain in darkness. Darkness appears not literally in both the terms, literal as and whereas figurative language. So we wanted to bridge the gap between the rural and the urban areas. Dr. Kalam played a critical role in India's Pokhran 2 nuclear test in 1998. Later on, he was successfully involved in the launches of Prithvi, Agni, Akash, Trishul, Nag missiles. He was awarded the Padma Bhushan and Padma Vibhushan and Bharat Ratna, as well as the Hoover Medal, for his immense contribution to public service. He is credited with making healthcare affordable and accessible to the common man. Dr. Kalam's literary talent came across in his famous works that include poems, essays, speeches, and autobiographies. He wrote as well. So he had published various books which included Ignited Minds, Unleashing the Power Within India, India 2020, A Vision for the New Millennium, and Wings of Fire. Besides, he has written poems on a variety of subjects. So he was an inspirational orator as well. When he spoke, he inspired people. When he spoke, people would hear him and get inspired. So he had the power to recharge people positively. So what do we learn? We earn that respect can be earned, not something which you can demand. It does not come in a platter. You have to earn it. Next, in order to enjoy success, you have to accept failures, and you have to do so gracefully. And he learned it through his missile programs. And one more thing, education and looking forward attitude are the only ways to bring about positive change in us. You have to be educated. You have to seek for education. You have to educate yourself, and you have to have the looking forward attitude. That means the positive attitude. You should never look back. You should never stop. Whatever failures you might face in life, you cannot afford to stop. You have to make that an inspiration and look forward and work diligently towards your goal. This is what we learn from this great man.